Attending my first OSA debate 2 weeks ago, I didn't really know what to expect. But Harry said to me that for him, it was the high point of the course. And sure enough, last time we had a gripping evening of high-powered point and counterpoint, with the opposition defeated in the end, but winning a moral victory because they actually converted nearly a quarter of the audience to their view that the terms Eastern and Western still have value as appropriate classifications to be used in international relations. Tonight, you're going to love this. We change the geographical orientation from East and West to North and South. Now then, had those of you who ventured into the west end of town yesterday just followed me into the mystic East, where I went for the day yesterday, you might have heard that expression used by our Cockney friends, East Londoners, whose delightful linguistic escapades, extraordinary feats of rhyme have rendered our language even more exotic. North and South, in their rhyming slang, means mouth. And this facial feature, whose allure, or otherwise in my case, does so much to persuade us in one direction or the other, brings me by a truly tortuous route to tonight's verbal fight. What we have tonight is this house believes that society places too much emphasis on appearances. This house believes that society places too much emphasis on appearances. Appearance and reality. Is reality only skin deep, or are the eyes the windows of our very souls? Before we get to tonight's business, let me close with two Shakespearean thoughts. The first, our friend Edmund from the other night. Do you remember Edmund? Yeah, the wicked brother, but so attractive. As he faces his end, clutching his death wound, he says, "The wheel is come full circle." And as this course nears its end, have we not come full circle? Our first experience, for those of you that have aged gracefully with me for the last 4 weeks, our first experience of Mr. William Shakespeare nearly a month ago now was Macbeth, which, like Lear, is a play very much about false appearances. The Thane of Cawdor at the very beginning of the play, who faces execution, a seeming trusted honourable man turned traitor, elicits the following epitaph from King Duncan: "There is no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust." Well, I'll tell you this, Harry was right. Debate night is a great night. The time when you guys get to do the talking, and you guys as well, you get to do the voting. So without further ado, to my, let me get this right, on my right hand side, these are the guys for the motion. You're the proposition, yeah? You're the proposers. These are the guys that say this house believes that society places too much emphasis on appearances. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Hannah. Hannah, would you care to start? Grace. And the young man among the wonderful ladies, Joe. And finally, Captain Gabrielle. And the opposition to my left, opposing the motion that this house believes that society places too much emphasis on appearances, we have Anna. All under the stewardship of Christina, the captain. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit about the structure. I'm going to hand over to Nadeem in a moment, who's going to tell you more about the structure. It begins with each of the speakers speaking for 4 minutes, Harry, yeah? Yeah. And 4 minutes only. So we get a speaker from one side for 4 minutes, then a speaker from the other side. Every minute you will hear this sound. So you will know how long you've got, guys. So every time you hear that sound, a minute has gone. And at the end of your 4 minutes, you will hear this sound. You'll notice, those of you who are eagle-eared, it's slightly longer. Eagle-eared? Do eagles have good ears? Battered. I like it. There is, during the speeches, there is the opportunity for a member of the opposition to interrupt with points of information. And then after the speeches, we're going to come to this in a minute, the Dean's going to explain the rebuttal process, which is quite complicated. Before I do that, I'll just say that at the end of the rebuttal process, it all goes over to you, the audience, and there's the opportunity to ask questions for both sides as you come to your decision. Then we ask the two teams to leave the room while you vote. You vote on one side or the other side. You are also allowed to abstain. The Dean is going to explain the rebuttal process, but I can't move to the Dean without thanking him immensely for the work that he's done over the 4 weeks of the course. Those of you that weren't here to witness the first debate, wow, it was a fabulous evening. The student contribution was amazing, but thank you, Nadine, for everything that you put in. The Dean comes with a tremendous pedigree in public speaking and debate, and in teaching as well, not just in the A-level, the sixth form sector, but at university level with Hertford, with Mansfield, and with Set Cross, all wonderful institutions within Oxford University. The Dean has a fantastic academic pedigree of his own. First degree, a BA at SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies in London, part of London University. It's a fabulous institution, and I advise every one of you to check it out for things that you're interested in, because the range of degrees there and the climate in which they're delivered is utterly amazing. And then moving here to Oxford for his MPhil, Arabic and Philosophy, and his doctorate, Dr. Ahmed, in Philosophy of the Mind. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Thank you very much, Andy, for that very wonderful introduction. I hope I can promise you an evening of exhilarating public speaking tonight. The teams have been working extremely hard. I think this debate has many ramifications in different areas, both in philosophy, in sociology, economics. The teams have been working incredibly hard. So before I start, if I could just ask everybody to give both teams a round of applause. The structure tonight will be that we will have, both teams will have a chance to speak for 4 minutes, as Andy's described, following of which there will be a session for rebuttals. So we will have a chance, I think individual members of the team will have a chance to refute, or to try and refute, points of argumentation which they feel, inadequate or improperly argued. So in a sense, what we're trying to get you to focus on, because at the end of that rebuttal process, will be a chance for you to decide on what you think which team you think has given you the best, most convincing presentation of the ideas. And certainly for the motion tonight, I'm not sure how much I agree with that motion, because I don't think I was chosen by Oxford solely on my pedigree, my intellectual pedigree. I'm sure it was on other things too. But anyway, that aside, I hope we will make this a very interesting session for you all. You will be asked to vote, obviously, and both team members will be asked to leave. And I would implore you to think about the reasoning that is being employed here. The emphasis on whether or not you believe the arguments are good arguments. It may be you will change your mind. We may get some abstentions tonight. We may get some abstentions. The only reason you would want to have an abstention is if you genuinely feel that you haven't been convinced either way. But given that our appearances are so important to us, I would imagine there would be very few. But it may be that you think the arguments are somehow inadequate, that the arguments are not using good reasoning, and that the inadequacy of the arguments of one particular team seems to convince you that they've lost, basically. Okay, so in a sense, what I want you to do is to focus hard on what you think are individual arguments, and then to vote. Okay, so without further introduction, I would like to introduce the speaker from the proposition.
emphasis on appearances. I would first like to make it clear that we, the proposition, believe that though looks matter to society, they are given too much importance, and instead character should be more significant. My colleagues and I will explain to you the reasons why. Appearances can be misleading. As humans, we instinctively base our opinions on people and things from what they look like. However, our argument is that society is placing too much emphasis on the appearances and not paying attention to the character of the person. Looking at the non-living perspective of things, newspapers, adverts, and social media are always targeting their customers or potential customers by mainly photoshopped, edited images that are pleasing to the eye, or in some cases displeasing to the eye, for example, to prevent someone from smoking. Many adverts in the world today don't fully tell the truth. Quality is more important than quantity, as Steve Jobs said, and this is the essence of our education. Nowadays, high schools and universities conduct all types of interviews with their chosen applicants. Why have interviews when they could just look at the grades of the applicant instead of having to go through all the trouble of an interview? The reason is simple. Universities are looking for the right candidate, not necessarily the best candidate in an exam. Interviews are specifically to see whether the person has the right virtues. This means education isn't about appearances or behavior, it's about character. True education is more about the mind instead of the body. Nowadays, people generally base their thoughts and choices on their emotions and what they believe is good, rather than thinking rationally and making the choice based on what is actually good for them. For example, some students travel to a developing, poverty-stricken place, such as Africa, not to help the people there, but instead to have something that stands out to go onto their resume. A good action with entirely wrong reasons, or to get into a good education system, or to get to a good school, when really all of that isn't necessary, when the deal breaker, in a sense, is the interview where they assess your character, not what you have done. Plagiarism. The reason? So many scholars want to appear good so that they can get into the job or school that they are applying to. This is proof that society can go to illegal measures in order to appear good. So thus they are placing too much emphasis on appearances. Also, more people are starting to rely on the internet and passively taking in the information that they receive instead of pursuing and building up their own system of knowledge. We as humans have become less independent and are more functional and automated. Appearance is convenient but deceptive. For example, the internet. If I was saying to go onto Wikipedia and search up diabetes, the correct information can have a misleading effect. For instance, outdated theories. This means that although we choose to believe in the so-called reliable source, we are losing our ability to think individually. You may be thinking, so what? It matters because people are giving away what makes every one of us unique. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Appearance is more than how a person looks. Appearance is how a person behaves and what they accomplish in their lives. Education is a great example of how much appearance is necessary and important. It consists of a formality, following the form, where one must tick all the boxes, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. How many of us in schools have had to know the basics of typing and using the computer to write essays and countless other things? Students need to be computer literate in order to accomplish anything in schools. Which one would the teacher grade more favorably? The crumpled binder paper filled with scrawl, or the neat printed essay? In many cases, not only is the appearance different, but it also indicates how much the student is willing to put into the work. Uniforms are another basic example of form. Some may argue that uniforms detract from the student's individuality, and schools must be the place where diversity is observed. However, contrary to this belief, the opposite is true. Many people believe uniforms help make everyone equal. They help make people feel that no one is superior and feel less self-conscious. Most countries also implement standardized tests. There are some critics of these systems who say that standardized testing is an unreliable way of testing children. However, without these tests would be scored by each school, each being different. There would be no way to compare one's education from one school to the next. This makes standardized testing practical. In addition, standardized tests are inclusive and non-discriminatory because they ensure content is equivalent for all students. Constantly as students, we need to do well on our tests, whether it be A-levels, SATs, or APs. What other system can colleges fairly look at prospective students? A student can never get into Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Stanford, or countless others without having the necessary good grades. But beyond that, the extracurriculars that show that this student is dedicated. Students must show physically their interest in an education. There is no other fair way for a college to evaluate that student's ability to excel. It doesn't mean the student cannot, but there's no way to measure for the college. In school and educational camps, much like the one we are in, our behavior is everything. Nothing else matters. No matter how rich or influential a background one may have, if they break the rules, they will be punished accordingly and equally. Students are even kicked out if the offense is serious enough. Schools in the past were often the place where elite students attended. Today, as a result of affirmative action, there can be more diversity seen in universities. Through a quota system, top universities had to accept qualified students from all different backgrounds. And although it is no longer around today, the benefits can still be seen. It showed that people shouldn't be ashamed of what we look like. Our differences were sought after, and therefore appearances were good. Based on the evidence, ladies and gentlemen, reject this motion. Thank you.
Honorable judges, worthy adversaries, ladies and gentlemen. Today's society is plagued with instances where it is obvious that appearance wrongly takes precedence. While the radio constantly blares songs about the beauty and importance of true love, and the theater, cinema, and television broadcast similar messages on their shows. I mean, if you've watched Vampire Diaries, I think you know what I mean. The opposite of the expected effect is what we can observe. For example, thanks to DBS Company's clever marketing campaign in 1938, it is now a societal demand to spend no less than 2 months' salary on the ring that you propose with to your loved ones. There are many examples of women getting into a dispute with their fiancé over the price of their ring, sometimes resulting in the end of the relationship. What people forget as they focus on the ring is that appearance can catch anyone's attention, but it's your personality that makes them stay. In marriage and love, it is no longer what actually is, but what appears to be. Organizations place excessive emphasis on diversity and their multicultural status. Most pride themselves on their ability to be impartial in the selecting process for jobs. However, many have a quota of ethnicities to hire or select, so as to make their image as good as possible. The pigment of our skin and our cultural background, as my colleague Hannah has shown, dictates the outcome of an application for a job or university. The merit and hard work of an individual is overlooked by these people in order to protect themselves from the racist label that some may apply to them. Whereas, what they do to avoid this quite blatantly fits that label. The emphasis on the color, rather than content of an individual's character, is disproportionate and excessive, especially considering the quotas these organizations have. Today's unrealistic standard of beauty that many aspire to, the standard set by models and actors, that are processed through visual effects softwares, such as Adobe Photoshop, before actually being seen by the public, is a repulsive notion. Dozens of magazines exist solely to dictate how its readers should dress, what type of makeup should be applied, what product they should purchase, and how they should behave. There are television shows and networks which exist solely to pursue and propagate meaningless information about the lives of celebrities, transforming a mass of our voting constituency into an ignorant herd of sheep that knows more about the Kardashians' family's opinion on abortion than what their representative, those who make decisions on their behalf, think about the same social issue. The dictum, form follows function, goes unheeded in this world of falsehood. And this is a very sad, depressing fact about our society. These facts are public, and a significant amount of people will say that they are aware of everything that I have said, but still continue to place as much emphasis on appearance as they do. Our society is like the prisoners in Plato's analogy of the cave, who after being told of the world beyond, still choose to remain ignorant to the vices of the society, because sadly enough, living in the world of appearance is the norm. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We live in an epoch where appearance makes the character, what is initially important for any profession. For example, former President John F. Kennedy was known for his looks, although he was a astute politician as well. Looks enhance his public image, better to perform and then translate promises into actions, not about the actions. Longer you're able to keep the power for what purpose. Did Kennedy or any other public man have a designer or a special person that controlled his wife's look? It's called the science of colors. The visual sense is the strongest developed one in the human beings. For example, orange is an aggressive color. It's used in rare cases. Blue creates the sensation of trust and security. Politicians use black as a powerful lead color and sometimes red that creates energy flow. At least, we need role models to look at. The best examples are taken from history. Tsar Ivan the Terrible, who ruled Russia in the 16th century, was compared to God because of his severe behavior. He was used to suspect everybody treachery and then kill them. He held scepter and orb of his sign of power, what for none of us can say, as understanding adoption of human acts happen unconsciously. That's why people judge appearance. It's difficult to explain. Finally, a few words about religion. Our opponents say that people show off by shouting out their religion with different dress codes. However, some of us need these things for self-identity. Economic research indicates that people who swear on the Bible in public cheat less in the future than those who swear on heaven. To be fake or natural is our absolute choice. So when we finger point our appearance, we do so not to feel the responsibility. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to reject this motion. Thank you.
Honorable judges, worthy adversaries, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where we gradually turn nonchalant and cold. This does not only affect our society, but also us as individuals. The fact that fast food is dominating our society demonstrates the influence of appearance over content. People care less about what they actually eat, as long as the food looks nutritious and delicious. Franchises like McDonald's and more fast food companies encourage people to replace their healthy diet with deep-fried food and soft drinks via appealing designs and posters, despite all the negative impact they have on our health. Some of these hazardous effects can be discovered immediately. Most of them are only revealed in a longer time span. Rates of type 2 diabetes, which accounts for 90% of all diabetes of the world, have increased markedly since 1960 in parallel with obesity and has been a major focus ever since. There's no cure to such a disease. You can only treat it.
Before, this type of diabetes was seen only in adults, but in recent years, it is found to be also occurring in children. Admittedly, fast food business provided people with low income the food they need with the cheapest price possible. Also, this provided a lot of job opportunities for the societies. However, junk food is making people pay a lot more than they believe they are. According to a study published in the January 2005 issue of Lancet, young adults who ate fast food more than twice per week gained 10 more pounds and had twice the insulin resistance increase. For those of you who are not familiar with the term, it is basically what is causing diabetes. Thus, they have a greater chance of having diabetes and heart disease risk as they reach their early middle age, which is basically saying that you're going to die young. And diabetes is known as one of the most common diseases worldwide. Its treatments are among those that cost the most. Other than that, the excess fat intake can rise the chance of heart disease, which is absolutely lethal. But why? Why would people keep on encouraging and tolerating this long-term suicide? The reason is clear. It brings profit. And food mountains are piled up in the US where countless companies are produced so much junk food that they desperately want to sell. As producers today bombard everyone with their fancy packaging on burgers and posh furnishment in their restaurants, society gradually falls into a vicious circle where people recognize the need of fast food industries as a result of their marketing, thus promoting more so-called demand for such products and encouraging the growth of junk food companies as well as soft drink giants. This enabled them to put more money in advertising and consequently growing even bigger. And in the future, when people finally found themselves trapped in all sorts of disease such as obesity and heart disease, they will regret not having a healthier diet, which is certainly a lot cheaper than your treatments. What's worse is the rebel culture of nowadays society. The average of smokers keep on dropping, and one of the reasons is because it looks chic and cool. And celebrities like Amy Winehouse also encourage the phenomenon of adolescent abuse of drugs through lyrics of her songs and through the way she behaves. Piercings, makeups, recreational and illegal drugs, bony limbs, all becoming the symbol of a rebel, of a new trendy, charismatic style fashion. While a lot of young teenage girls become obsessed with being skinny, many develop eating disorder, regular habit of vomiting, and even anorexia as a result of their imbalanced diet under the influence of super competitive industry of modeling, TV programs, fashion magazines, and many other social medias. The scariest part of this story is the fact that people are generally underestimating the effects these disorders could have on us. Without proper nutrition intake, a lot of mechanisms inside our body would not be able to function properly. Without proper the fact that our society stresses so much on appearance, it's horrifying and is now heading for a very downward end. Thank you for your attention.
Good evening, honorable and dishonorable. Being healthy does not just refer to being fit or free of illness. It also refers to being healthy in the mind. This includes not having negative thoughts about yourself or others. To not have negative thoughts means that you will be confident in everything you say and everything you do. It means that you know yourself.
Did you just have a negative thought about us?
I'm sorry, what?
So can you put an information?
Did you just have a negative thought about us?
I did just say that. The way that you carry yourself reflects your confidence, and much of your confidence comes from how you feel about how you look. If you take care of yourself, then you generally feel more polished. Certain people feel more confident after they get plastic surgery. Plastic surgery does not just mean to beautify something. It can also mean to enhance their beauty, fix a flaw, or to cure an illness. An example of somebody enhancing their beauty is getting lip surgery. They may be self-conscious of their lips, and making them a little bit bigger may make them feel better about themselves and more confident. What's wrong with that? There was a woman who was abused by her husband. After being beaten, he shot her in the face and blew off her nose. As a result, she had to get reconstructive plastic surgery, hence, fix a flaw. I personally do not see anything wrong with this case. Because of plastic surgery, she was not only able to get a nose, but also regain her sense of smell. When people have breast cancer, they too have to get plastic surgery to remove their breasts. By doing this, they save their own lives. This is curing illness. Health and appearances are also related by staying active. People work out to get in shape and ameliorate their bodies. By doing this, people can have more credence for their bodies or just feel more confident. Working out does not just get people in shape, but it also makes people feel happy and allows them to burn off steam. Oftentimes, after working out, people are in a good mood and feel robust. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to talk about a very serious topic, body odor. At least in the United States, BO is not tolerated and it's definitely not socially acceptable. It is not respecting yourself nor others. Who wants to be with a person that smells disgusting? I know I wouldn't. People should take care of themselves by bathing and grooming. It's a healthy way to live. If you do not ever take a shower or wash yourself, you're going to smell repulsive, and most likely people are not going to want to be around you. And so, in conclusion of my case, I would like to ask, what's wrong with somebody trying to increase their self-esteem and making themselves happy? I now ask you, as respectable guests, to reject this motion. Thank you.
Since we're so negative about our adversaries, honorable judges, unworthy adversaries. Politics in this age is no longer about what is better for its constituency, but rather who can win the popularity contest. The obvious example for appearances winning votes in politics is Barack Obama, the current United States president. Arguably, the most persuasive part of his candidacy was something he was born with and can't help: his race. The figures by the Wall Street Journal reflect a major increase in the relevance of race as a factor in people's votes. With African Americans. Yes?
Are you saying Barack Obama is not qualified?
No, I'm saying he's black. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The figures by the Wall Street Journal reflect a major increase in the relevance of race as a factor in people's votes, with African Americans taking race over 2.5 times as seriously when deciding who to vote for than other races. Moreover, according to the Pew Research Center, an immense 47.5% of affiliated politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, believe that media coverage was unfair and in Obama's favor, which can be credited to his race. He will most probably go down in history books for being a pioneer for racial equality, despite his best efforts not to be defined by his color, by being the first Afro-American president, than for what he has done in office. In addition, he won a Nobel Prize within a year of his inauguration. 61% of American adults polled by the USA Today responded that they thought Obama did not deserve the prize. There have been no major foreign policy achievements to date, according to the USA Today, the Today Show, and the National Review, as well as numerous others. Surely previous Nobel Peace Prize laureates, such as Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, and Anwar Sadat, have done more to merit this prize and honor over a lifetime than Barack Obama did over 9 months. Especially since Obama himself said that perhaps the most profound issue surrounding his receipt of the prize. Yes?
It sounds like you're just stating an opinion.
It sounds to me like I'm stating facts.
But that's an opinion that you think Nelson Mandela did more.
Yes, he did. In 9 months, there have been no major foreign policies at all passed by Obama. So would you argue that Obama deserves this prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, mind you?
I would say
more than
that,
Nelson Mandela?
I would say that sounds like an opinion.
27, or which how many years in jail over 9 months of doing nothing? Especially since Obama himself said that perhaps the most profound issue surrounding his receipt of this prize is the fact that he is commander-in-chief of the military of a nation in the midst of 2 wars. Nobel Peace Prize material? Not quite. Another prime example of appearance taking priority over anything else is the Fidesz party's campaign in the 2014 Hungarian elections. The party had posters of their adversaries put up all over the country portraying them as both criminals and clowns, with the slogan, "They don't deserve any more chances." Furthermore, they hired men in clown costumes to follow around these same adversaries in Budapest and other capital cities, and which harassed them too. Obviously, no one wants to vote for a loser. So it was no surprise that over two-thirds of the vote, two-thirds of the parliamentary seats in Hungary went to this party, giving them the opportunity and the chance to change the constitution of the country. For the second time in a row, by the way. Politics today is all style, no substance. Ronald Reagan was a Hollywood actor, a man of great popularity, and many of the changes he brought about were negative for the country, including over tripling the national debt and increasing the gap between the rich and the poor with his tax policies. Also, do note that I don't disagree with the ends of Reagan's decisions, but that the means were unjustified and unfair. Nixon was also widely popular in the United States and demonstrated by one of the greatest victories in a political election ever. But then, to have to resign 3 years after due to the Watergate scandal, the first president to do so. It would be foolish to overlook the excessive emphasis that we place on appearances, especially in politics. To ignore the work, the issues highlighted, and the messages of the likes of Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln. Can I please finish the sentence? Abraham Lincoln. The Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Enlightenment promoted is not only the denial of the relevance of these events, men, and movements, but also the devaluation of the most important part of any man, the content of their character. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a completely different note, tomorrow is our last day in Oxford, and to make this 2 weeks memorable, a gala dinner has been organized. For the last 2 days, I've been hearing many girls talking about what to wear, whether to wear heels or not, how to do their hair, and etc. But what for? I mean, there's no rule that students have to look flawless. However, time after time we do this as the way to show respect.